Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be unboxing the Nintendo Switch 2. I never had a Nintendo console growing up, but I always kind of wanted one, especially the Switch OLED. I just never actually get around to buying it. For the longest time, I felt like emulation was enough for me and that I didn't really need to spend money on the actual hardware. Inside the box, we get the console, the new upgraded Joy-Cons, two Joy-Con straps, a grip that turns them into more of a traditional controller, an HDMI cable, a charging cable, an AC adapter with a European plug, the dock, and some papers. I decided not to get a game bundle since I wasn't really interested in the available ones. And honestly, that made this whole experience feel even more like a blank slate. So for years, it just stayed somewhere in the back of my mind, while I kept tinkering with Switch emulation, trying to get things to run properly, adjusting settings, fixing issues, you know how it goes. But yesterday, completely out of nowhere, something just clicked. Like a switch flipped in my brain, and I suddenly felt like I just needed to try the real thing for myself. So I went out and bought a Switch 2. Before that, I had seen a lot of videos talking about how the Switch 2 is overpriced, how the games are too expensive, and how Nintendo as a company feels more corporate and less magical nowadays. And honestly, I kind of agree with a lot of those takes. But at the same time, I realized that I didn't actually have my own opinion. So I decided to just go for it and experience everything myself from a completely fresh perspective. I don't have any games in my Nintendo library, no history, nothing carried over. And even without a starter game, I was genuinely excited. Just carrying the box home in my bag felt kinda surreal, like I couldn't fully believe that I finally had my own Nintendo console. When I first took it out of the box, I was honestly blown away by the quality. It's one of those devices where every little detail feels thought out. It's incredibly thin, much thinner than I expected, and it fits in my hand so much better than my Steam Deck OLED. It's also noticeably lighter, around 100 grams difference, and you can really feel that when holding it for longer sessions. When I first powered it on, I was surprised by how simple and clean the UI is. It feels very minimal, very intuitive, even though I do wish there were more fun themes or customization options. The setup process was pretty standard. Choose a language, setting the time zone, connecting to Wi-Fi, but I like that it actually guided me through trying out the Joy-Cons in different ways. Detaching them, attaching them to the grip. It felt like the console was gently introducing me to how it's meant to be used. It also asked if I wanted to transfer data from another Switch, which I obviously don't have, so this really is a completely fresh start for me. During my first evening with the Switch 2, I mostly explored the eShop, looked through different games, and tried to understand the ecosystem a bit more. I also found a website called Deco Deals, which is super helpful for tracking discounts, especially since Nintendo games don't come on sale that often. Since I didn't have any full games yet, I downloaded a few demos just to try things out. Donkey Kong Bonanza was fun, but very short, and Persona 3 Reload looked really beautiful on this screen. One of the biggest surprises for me was the HD rumble in the controllers. I've never experienced anything like this before. It feels so detailed and precise, not just like a simple vibration, but almost like texture. And I didn't expect to care about that at all, but now I really do. Another thing I absolutely love is the Joy-Cons themselves. I've never used this kind of controller setup before, and it's surprisingly comfortable. Being able to play in different ways depending on how you feel in the moment is such a nice experience. You can use it as a traditional handheld, attach the Joy-Cons to the grip, or just hold them separately in each hand. And honestly, my favorite way to play so far is in bed, with my hands relaxed by my sides, not holding single controller. It feels way more natural and cozy than I expected. It almost feels less like gaming and more like just relaxing. The screen is also slightly bigger than the one on the Steam Deck OLED, while the console itself is smaller and much thinner overall. Even though it's an LCD panel, I wouldn't consider that a deal breaker at all. Screen still looks really beautiful with good colors and clarity, and unless you're directly comparing it to an OLED side by side, I don't think most people would even notice. And honestly, it's kind of nice not having to think about burning or image retention. The speakers are really nice, the sound is clear and they can get pretty loud even at around 70% volume. But at the same time, they can also get quiet enough while still being audible, so it doesn't break the atmosphere when you're playing late at night. I do wish they weren't downfiring, but honestly, it feels like a fair trade off for the overall sound quality. Something I didn't expect is that the Switch 2 doesn't just feel like a device for playing games. It feels more like a small personal world that you can carry with you. Sometimes I just want to hold it or press the buttons because I genuinely enjoy the way it feels. It's definitely a pick up and play kind of device, and it makes you want to come back to it more often than you think. Of course, the Switch 2 isn't perfect. The battery life isn't that great, so for longest sessions, I do have to keep that in mind. I also don't love the way the games come as game keycards. It's not ideal if you want to preserve your collection for the future in case servers close or things change. And even when it comes to upgraded Switch 1 games, it's a bit confusing. They always tell you if the upgrade is free or paid, but it still feels strange that some are free and some aren't. And majority of the games don't have the Switch to upgrade at all yet, since I heard it's the job of the developers and not Nintendo. If you want to buy digital games from time to time, some of them can be really heavy, like Cyberpunk 2077, so you do have to keep an eye on the storage. And speaking about the storage, express memory cards are also more expensive than regular ones, which is something to consider if you plan to get a lot of digital games. The Switch 2 exclusive lineup was a bit weak last year at launch, but now I notice there are people like me buying it for games like Pokémon Pokopia and the upcoming Pokémon Winds and Waves. Also, the rumored new Zelda, Mario, and Fire Emblem games, so things are improving. But honestly, none of these things take away from how much I enjoy the console so far. For my very first Switch game, I chose Pokémon Pokopia. I really enjoy games like Animal Crossing, Minecraft, and Pokemon, and this one feels like a mix of all three, which makes it a perfect starting point for me. I wanted my first experience to be something cozy, something I can slowly sink into, and this game feels exactly like that. I went into it completely blind, no let's plays, no guides, and within the first 20 minutes, I was already hooked. There's just something about the atmosphere and the pacing that makes it really easy to lose track of time. And honestly, right now as I'm editing this video, I can't wait to go back and keep playing. I'm also really looking forward to picking up some games, maybe getting some used Switch titles like Animal Crossing, trying out the bigger Zelda games with the Switch 2 upgrade packs, and finally experiencing the Xenoblade and Fire Emblem series, since I've never played those before. And maybe even getting into some more niche games like the Atelier series at some point. So that's my first impressions of the Nintendo Switch 2. I didn't buy it for nostalgia and I didn't expect to fall in love with it this quickly. But honestly, it's such a cozy, fun little device that makes me want to play games more and more. It's not perfect, but for me, the overall experience and how it feels in my hands far outweigh any of the current negatives. I'm really excited to continue my Nintendo journey, explore new games, and see where this console takes me. I hope I will play and love it as long as the people who still play their launch day Switch one even after 90 years since release. If you're thinking about getting a Switch to yourself, I'd say try it out for yourself and just enjoy it at your own pace. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me keep making cozy and honest content. And now, I think it's time for me to go back to playing Pokemon Pokopia. See you next time!